and I belong to St. Joseph's College, Devagiri, Calicut. So this is my third time here. Right from the beginning of my college life, Speak for India has been an inevitable part. First year, I couldn't make it beyond district level. Last year, I reached honors, and this year, as I promised earlier, I reached semi-finals. Each year, I'm not coming here to compete with others. Coming here to compete with myself. And I'm really happy that each year I'm able to progress, I'm able to improve myself. Uh, in my last honors, I actually thanked one of our judges because after each and every competition, he used to give us personal reviews, and that has been really helpful for me to improve myself. Speak for India is actually a family for me, which makes me come back every year to this place. And finally, I'd like to thank each and every one of you, my friends, my teachers, my hostel mates, everyone who came here to support me. Thank you all, and I would like to wish Vignesh, my opponent, right from his honors, and all the best. So thank you.
Thank you, Ashwini. All the very best. Vignesh.
I'm Vignesh and I'm coming from Government College, Paraka. Actually, it means a lot for me to be here right now. I lost my father 4 months ago, and it was actually 20 days before the block level competition, and I was no mood to compete because my friends, my family, and all those who love me kept supporting me, and they are one of the reasons that I am here today. And also, when my name was called the last time, before I walked onto the stage, I had this small snapshot of my mother and my sister clapping like 6-year-olds. And for that small picture that she gave me, I will forever be grateful to this venture. And also, one more thing is that I have been to many competitions, but never before, and I personally believe that never again I will have a judge who will, after the competition, just like she said, will come and give us personal reviews. That will be the biggest takeaway that I have from here, and it's been such a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
All the very best, Vignesh. As you know that now, you have honored Ashwini at your time start writing.
Life and death were born together. To give birth, to choose death, to make love. All these are extremely personal decisions one makes, and the state must attitude towards terminally ill patients. It actually relieves them from intolerable pain and incurable diseases. Legalization of euthanasia is actually extension of natural right and autonomy of a patient to decide and determine what kind of treatment he or she should accept or deny. Legalization of euthanasia gives hope to terminally ill people. Actually, it's a psychological insurance to people. It gives them the right, it gives them the control over the timing and manner of their death, and this alleviates a lot of stress and a feeling from their part that they are a burden to a society. In countries where euthanasia is already legalized, the number of people who actually resort to this method is very less.
Thank you, Ashwini. And Vignesh, it's your turn and your 1 minute starts right now.
It is nature that divided that single cell in your mother's womb to make you, a colony of 6 trillion cells today, and only she has the right to take that away. With science and medicine increasing its domain and accommodating more and more cures for all the incurable diseases, it is absolutely undesirable to say that we can legalize euthanasia. It will be a step that is taken in the opposite direction. With India, let me put some facts. We rank 148 in the Global Happiness Index. More than 29% of the population lives below the poverty line, and we have the second highest suicide rates among the different countries of the planet. If legalizing euthanasia is implemented, it will pave way for an alternative to suicide methods that are adopted by the people, and also poverty will lead more and more people to adopt euthanasia, even when there are medicines to cure their condition, and misuse of this idea is definitely going to take place. But the most fundamental thing that I want to ask is, who are we supposed to decide? A patient who is saying that he wants to die can never be in the right state of emotions, and as a doctor, all he can do is to sustain and save life, never to take one. And moreover, if it's related,
At your time. Now for 3 minutes for the debate will start. Ashwini, at your time starts right now.
Most of the people are forced to spend a huge sum of money in the form of paying for medical services towards the last 6 months of their life, not to prolong their life, but to prolong their death. As my friend told, India is a country where millions of people live below poverty line. Our government, if they cannot ensure a quality life, a dignity to life, how can they interfere in the will of a person to die of dignity?
first of all, the concept of dignity is relative. What I And the second thing that I would say that when the World Wars happened, what happened there was many people lost their limbs, many lost their lives to the war trauma. But if we had an option of euthanasia then, if people were subjected to that, science would have never developed the final plastic surgeries that we have. The developments that we have in the field of medicine is all because euthanasia was not present then.
Yes, Ashwati.
My friend told that dignity is a very subjective topic. Yes, I would also support that dignity is very subjective, and no one can actually explain or interpret dignity of other person's life. So if one person feels that, yes, I don't have dignity, my life don't have dignity, and I have to end my life, who are others to judge their decision?
Please.
Definitely we are nobody to judge it, but we can definitely do the act of bringing them back to life. Nick Vujicic, a man down in Australia born with no arms or legs. He decided to end his life when he was a teenager, but his life and circumstances, the ones who loved him, brought him back to life, and thanks to God, today he is an inspiration to millions of people.
I'd like to differentiate between disability or differently able people and people who are suffering from terminal illness or people who are living a vegetative life. That two are totally different, and I also don't support euthanasia for disabled people. Sorry, I'm not favoring that. I'm favoring euthanasia for terminally ill people who are facing a lot of suffering and pain, and they feel that death is better than life.
Got the point, yes.
Definitely, I'm not talking about the people who are disabled, I'm talking about the people who are trying to opt for euthanasia. Even those people are also thinking about it. That is one thing. And the other is that it doesn't matter if you are in a state of no return. Because until and unless you're breathing, it is your right to live in this planet. When God gave that life to you, when science is sustaining that life, there is no meaning in taking that away.
Please.
I'd like to tell my friend that in countries where euthanasia is legalized, less number of people actually resort to this method. So legalization of euthanasia has not resulted in more number of people dying, but in less number of people suffering.
Archie, Vignesh.
The thing that is getting developed is in developed countries. What we are having is a country where 29% of the population is living below the poverty line. Don't you think this might overshadow the concepts and take the lives of more people? More people will opt for it because of poverty.
And your time up. Thank you so much. Now it's the session with the jury, and we'll start with you, Ashwati. Judges, please.
Ashwati, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. You started your debate by saying the word intolerable pain. So intolerable pain is a word which is relative. I will tell that killing a person and the time of death, nobody has ever measured the pain that a person will have during the moment of death. So how can you tell that the intolerable pain that you have till that point of time is smaller compared to the pain at that moment of time?
Is the question clear, Ashwati?
Thank you for the question, sir.
It's clear? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, now you have 30 seconds and your time starts right now.
Yes, intolerable pain is definitely a relative and subjective point, but according to a research, a person will trade life instead of suffering 5 minutes of extraordinary pain. So death is always much easier than suffering pain. We can see the pain suffered by cancer patients who are suffering from tertiary cancer. I, being a palliative volunteer myself, have seen many patients who have asked me personally that I prefer death over this pain.
Thank you, Ashwati. Now it's your turn, Vignesh. So please.
Vignesh,
Sir.
my question to you is, it stands like this. In this world of poverty, okay, where medicines and medical field is not up to the level, why are you giving so much of importance to a person's life is the question.
Sir,
Is the question clear, Vignesh? Yes or no?
so can you give me one more time? Sorry.
Yeah, the question I will repeat. The question is, in a world where there is so much of population, where around 30% of the population is below the poverty line, why are we giving so much of importance to a particular person's life? With medicine being limited or the medical field being limited.
Okay.
Is the question clear, Vignesh? Yes? All right, now you have 30 seconds and your time starts now.
So when Michael Faraday first performed his experiments, it was called as a party trick. But today we are paying tax for it, the electricity that we have. The advancements that are possible with medicine, and even not just the advancements, the way we can bring down the rate of these medicines are definitely a possibility. But legalizing euthanasia will even cut down that hope that someday we will have medicines that will be cheaper to contain or control all these diseases and terminal illness. So I personally believe that it is not a step that is in the direction of science or humanity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Kindly come forward.